Equalization test, RIAA curve. Set level 1,000. 15,000.
To work with natural materials. I wanted to work with this concept of life outside of modern civilization and kind of my own fantasy of what that is. And this fantasy is very much based on a lifetime of elusive and intangible depictions. Basically how it's been shown to me, the idea has been shown to me throughout my life. So it's really a representative history that I'm going by, that's inspiring my fantasies. But, it's important, that I feel like the viewer has to come to the show, has to see the work with their imagination. It's kind of like the opposite of of literature. It's kind of the opposite of literature where you're supplied the images and you have to write the text. In this case, I'm only giving you a portion of the images, so you also have to, you have to kind of use your imagination to fill in more images while filling in the story, writing your own story. For example, there's no people in any of my work, so you as the viewer need to populate the story.
Your cheating heart will tell on.
It's like going into a museum, or even, like, I'll take an example. I like to go into antique stores, and because they make my imagination wander, right? And I start to think how these objects were used, or even just going into an old hotel, or every day on the way to the studio, I pass an old railroad station that's no longer in use, but there's a train there, and they still have the building. Every time I walk through, I imagine what that was like. So I think, so that's what the show is. You go in and if I ask you what you think the work means, you're going to come up with your own thing, because you're making all kinds of associations in order to develop your own story, and it's all in your imagination.
They decided that there was nothing they need do to the planet. It was already perfect.
I've collected a bunch of natural materials in my studio, and this was when I started the paintings. And the first painting, The Hunted, which is coconut shell, a mask made out of coconut shell with shark's teeth. That was just, I had the materials in my studio, and I just started making stuff without anything in mind. I just started putting things together. And that's like with a lot of the paintings, and that's basically all the work. It's just me kind of collecting the materials and putting them together, not really having anything in particular in mind, except this idea of life outside of modern civilization. That's kind of the only thing that I had in mind as I was doing it. So I go into antique stores, thrift stores. There's a lot of good salvage, like building material salvage stores around here. And basically whatever catches my eye, and then once something catches my eye, and then I start to, the story starts to develop a little bit. I might imagine something happening and say, okay, I need a lamp and a magnifying glass, and I'll even search the web, search Etsy or eBay, looking for something that appeals to me. And usually the materials are either natural materials or man-made materials that are show some kind of sign of deterioration. condition or age. Either they're from another time or they have some wear and tear on them. So, I'm attracted to vintage and antiques and yeah, or, decaying things. That's always been in my work. The question was, am I, trying to show people the past in my work or inviting them to experience the past? I think it is, because there are some objects in there that are definitely from the past and are nostalgic, are going to be nostalgic for people. But there's not, everything. I mean, yeah, I guess it is. I never really thought about it, but it is very much, I guess, inviting them to experience the past. I think that history is very important. To understand, and not just history and the actions that were happening, but even in history and like design, the way things looked at a certain time period. Every part of history, every little inch of it, is important, incredibly important in order to understand today how you think as a person, how society works, all that stuff.
10,000 feet. So where's our landing site? There's nothing but water below. 9,000. Forget all the inertial correction.
We might need another fan to stay in altitude.
We're in trouble if we don't see land within the next 2 minutes.
I eventually got to a point where I asked myself, why am I doing sculpture? Why am I trying to do installation? Is it because I want to make my work more contemporary? Like, that's not a good reason to do it. I should just be doing it because I want to do it. And, plain and simple. And so then I reevaluated what I was doing, and then I realized that, for this, now I'm doing many different things, but for this exhibition, I really wanted to do an installation. And so I made a couple other sculptures that aren't ending up in the exhibition because they weren't, they didn't have that pureness, I guess. But yeah, so now it's like, it's just a feeling, I need to do this, I need to make this installation, and, it's relative to the work, to the paintings, but it's separate from the paintings. It's its own piece, its own thing, that couldn't be realized in a painting, had to be realized in an installation. At least, what? Let's scrap this question.
Scrap it? Okay. Sounds good.